when it comes to seasonality and its implication of ad creatives, you want to make sure that we're looking at all the metrics that we can and not just the simple face value ones that come to mind first. Yeah, so with regards to seasonality and implication on ad creatives, a lot of the times we have to think about how it's going to be considered an effective creative. So an effective creative isn't just one that's getting lots of clicks, because you want to see what happens after that. Click-through rates are great, but for me to have a more accurate idea of how effective a creative is, I need to be looking at the LTV. So what's the lifetime value that this particular creative is creating for me? For me to consider that, then that means I have to look at other metrics, such as CPA or my return on ad spend. These are going to be really beneficial in me deciding whether this creative is actually achieving the business's goals, or if it's actually giving a misleading message perhaps to users, which is something that we don't want either. Now, the easiest way to know if an creative is working well and if it's effective for me is by doing some creative competitive analysis. So this is the simplest way to save money, especially on creative production, and deciding which approaches work for you. And the best way to do that, I would say, is by using one of our tools that we're very proud of, which is our mobile action ad intelligence tool. This is the perfect way for you to keep out an eye for the market. And what basically you can do with this tool is you can gather a list of your competitors, evaluate the approaches that they're using here and now, and highlight the core mechanisms and try to adapt it to your product. So one of the great things here is that we're with our ad intelligence, you can have a look, as you can see on the screen, you can have a look at the top creatives that are currently running throughout your whole category. You can have a more in-depth look based on a particular keyword, which I'll show you in an upcoming slide. But this is a great way to first take that step, because creative optimization and optimizing and according to seasonality requires us to have a lot of intelligence and research. And this is a great way to start with that. So having a closer look at that, it's not just about how they're making those creatives, right? It's about where they're putting them as well. So the ad networks and DSPs used by your competitors are essential, because that's going to give you an idea into where are people who are similar to my app, where are my competitors seeing success with their creatives. So on the mobile action ad intelligence dashboard, you have the opportunity to not only see ad networks, but also see DSPs as well. And that's important, because sometimes seeing beyond the ad network is important to know really where we're seeing the impressions or where we're seeing the success of a particular creative. This is how you get to monitor which one is most preferred. Now, we can also have a look at the formats. That's also a big one, right? So which format is working? Are they using a playable ad? Is it a video? Is it a still image? Which one is working best for my category? Which one is working best for my competitor? This is a great way for you to do to reduce the costs related to A/B testing. Now, of course, we don't want to do exact copying, because what might work for your competitor or what might work in your category won't always work specifically for you. But this is a great way for you to have a reference. And from that reference, you can continue to create different iterations and unique ways that are going to work perfectly for your app in particular. Here's a really cool example. Something that's really relevant we have now is Barbie. So here, for example, you can filter that key information using a particular word. In this case, we're using Barbie because there's Barbie and Oppenheimer fever everywhere, and you can narrow down your results accordingly. Now, what's also really important about creatives is, I know when it comes to creative creation or crafting creatives, it's rarely done by one person, or at least I hope that it's not being done by one person on your team. There are a lot of fingers that go into the pie, and for that to work, you need to have an ability for everyone to have access to the ad intelligence research and be able to refer back to it easily. That's what makes our creative collection so great, is because you have the ability to create your own collection, which can be easily accessible by your graphic design team to your sales team, because I know there are a lot of different people who go into looking at creatives and adjusting them. When you have a collection, you have the ability to always go back and visit them accordingly. So when it comes to making an effective creative, you're going to want to have something that creates and evokes an emotional response and a feeling. And there are definitely a number of different ways that advertisers can do this. And one that's really effective is, and currently really trendy, is UGC, so user-generated content. Utilizing an actual human in your ad is an easy and highly effective way to convey any sense of emotion, whether it's urgency or FOMO or frustration. It also prevents the chances of a message being lost in translation. But one of the great things that we can also consider is playable ads. Playable ads are also really important when it comes to the type of trends that we're going to be considering. Sometimes having a playable ad is a way for a user to feel exact and immediate satisfaction and happiness when they complete that game, or the vice versa, and feeling a sense of frustration because they were not able to finish that task, which leads them to immediately wanting to download that app or wanting to, continue the game, which leads to the ultimate download. So these are things that we need to consider. Overall, we're looking at the latest trends, right? So if I'm in gaming, playable ads are 100% in my UA strategy for 2023, or it's going to be, user-generated content depending. In certain platforms, 2D or 3D videos and static images are still the main ones that are prevailing, and they still work well because they have low cost and they have the highest conversion rates. But some apps where CGI effects or animations and visual effects are more important to users, we'll see better success with playable ads or with video ads. So these are things that we have to consider. The bottom line is we're checking the latest trends and we're monitoring that.